Ever wondered if there's a better way to keep your tank safe and healthy without constant testing? Do fluctuations in your tank's water leave you anxious? Unsure if your plants and fish are truly in the best environment? This is the Kactoily 7-in-1 aquarium monitor, and it aims to tackle these issues. But how much of an impact can it really make? Full disclosure, Kactoily did send me this for free to review, but nonetheless, this is an interesting product. The probe is made out of durable plastic, with the monitor feeling a little cheap, but that shouldn't really matter. Although, the probe did have some white stuff on it, but it's apparently from the probe protection solution and can easily be washed. It's also wireless, where you can monitor it up to 10 meters away outdoors and 3 meters indoors, or just attach it to the stand with the provided magnet. The main advantage is that it can test for pH, TDS, temperature, salinity, ORP, EC, and SG all in real time. Whoa, what in the world is SG, EC, and ORP? I've never heard of these before. Let's start with a lesson before diving into the actual product. We'll start with SG, also known as specific gravity, which can measure the density of aquarium water compared to pure water. It helps you understand if the water is heavier due to dissolved salt. Think of it like comparing a basketball to a bowling ball. Both can be the same size, but the bowling ball is much denser. SG is more relevant to saltwater tanks, so it doesn't concern us planted tank users, much like salinity. So a value of 1.0 is standard. EC, also known as electrical conductivity, tells you how well your water can conduct electricity, which is directly related to the amount of dissolved salts and minerals in the water. It's a variable that provides an alert that something is changing in the aquarium. It's similar to how a fever doesn't specify an illness, but indicates that the body is responding to something, warranting further investigation. But TDS also does this. The main difference is that TDS also takes organic and inorganic material into account, while EC just measures salt and minerals. EC has a direct impact on osmosis pressure. As far as I know, this doesn't affect plant health as much as it affects fish health. Fish are very sensitive to this variable, as it can affect the balance of water and minerals in and out of their cells. If the water's mineral content is too high or too low, fish may have to work extra hard to maintain their internal balance, which can stress them out and affect their health. Kactoily recommends an EC reading of 100 to 2,000 millisiemens per centimeter. ORP is one that might be worth looking at. It measures the oxidation reduction potential, also known as redox potential. It's essentially a score for your aquarium's water cleanliness and ability to break down waste. Think of it as a water quality meter. A higher score means your system is doing a great job at keeping good water quality for plants and fish. Generally, a value of 250 to 350 millivolts or higher is a good number to have for planted tanks. Having a negative ORP isn't also a good thing. However, there are a lot of variables that actually influence this, so it isn't much of a worry as you think. There is also a correlation between ORP and oxygen. The higher the ORP, the higher the amount of oxygen in the water. Furthermore, ORP also has a correlation when it comes to the nitrogen cycle. Nitrifying bacteria need oxygen to live, so higher levels of ORP can indirectly influence the conversion of ammonia and nitrite. While higher ORP score may indicate cleaner water, it's not always ideal to chase the highest score possible. Overemphasizing ORP can distract you from focusing on more direct methods for plant health and growth, such as light, CO2, and nutrients. Now, the probe is already calibrated out of the box, but how accurate is it? For pH, the accuracy should be within a plus or minus 0.05 discrepancy. The probe had a reading of 7.12. Comparing it to the API test kit, it was reading around 7.1 to 7.2, which is fairly accurate. But do be aware that the pH can change over time, especially when injecting CO2, so you will need to use the liquid test kit immediately if you want to test for accuracy. For TDS, the probe was reading 373 ppm. My TDS pen was reading 392 ppm. This is a 95% accuracy, which falls right into the supposed accuracy range, so TDS also gets a pass. For temperature, the probe had 25.8 Celsius. The heater was set to 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and the accuracy of the probe should be within 0.1 degrees. So I took out the good old laser heat gun, and it read 26.1 degrees Celsius to 26.8 degrees Celsius. The heat gun temp was closer to the probe temp, which leads me to believe that the heater somehow broke or just not calibrated. As for salinity, ORP, SG, and EC, I don't have any way to test and validate them. However, these variables, apart from ORP to some extent, are not worth looking at unless you have a brackish or saltwater tank, and that's where the downfall of the monitor comes into play. This is more of a 3.5-in-1 monitor for us planted tank enjoyers, which is fine. I just wish that there was a more centric monitor that replaces these values with either CO2, GHKH, etc. Having a real-time test for CO2 would be a massive game changer. If pH and KH can be monitored, CO2 levels can easily be calculated. You are given real-time pH, but it still takes time to calculate KH, and during that time phase, pH may have changed. Kactoily, if you can make this happen, this would be an instant buy for me no matter the price. Now, that is not the only con. The buttons on the monitor are a little confusing at first, especially when navigating the settings. I wasn't sure which button moved the selection up or down and whatnot, but I eventually got the hang of it. Furthermore, in order to get the monitor and probe to work, it requires 2 USB slots. This isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're using it more remotely, but for those that will have it near the tank, you will need either 2 outlets for the provided USB plugs or find a way to accommodate them. Not everyone will have the space for that. Obviously, these issues are just a slight inconvenience and isn't the biggest issue. That one is reserved for this. The holes on the front are roughly 3mm in diameter. Most fish fry won't fit, but that might be a bit too big for shrimp. See what I did there? Anyway, baby shrimp can be as tiny as 1mm. Furthermore, given how you need to remove the 2 caps at the bottom, shrimp could easily explore the probe. I'm not certain how much of an issue that would cause. However, I don't want to take any chances. So I learned 3D modeling, bought a 3D printer, and printed my very own cover for it. Plus, I made sure that the slots are 0.5mm wide, so there won't be anything getting in there apart from water. If you want one for yourself, I will leave a link to the STL and FreeCAD files on printables in the link below and on the Tropiscape Discord server. Overall, having the ability to monitor these variables, even if some are useless, is still a massive plus when it comes to water quality and tank health. It allows us to fine-tune other variables that are in correlation to them, such as CO2. It gives us a glimpse of what is really happening in the tank on a scientific level, and can provide a warning sign if something has gone amiss in the water that might be causing something like algae. Knowing TDS in real time is also a plus when it comes to keeping shrimp, especially Caridinia shrimp. Apart from the downsides that I've already mentioned, it's a pretty good product. If you want one for yourself, use the code TA or the link below for 13% off your order. Now, this was the first time I've ever heard of a real-time water quality monitor and was intrigued the moment Kactoily reached out to me. If only it was a little more centered around freshwater tanks and not a mix of fresh and salt water, it would be a massive benefit for sure, especially when it comes to growing sensitive plants such as HC Cuba. You can find out why it's one of the most difficult carpet plants to grow in this video here.